The broadcast is live.
Welcome to the place where we do not believe there can be only one. But
We believe there should have
Many
only
as one. Because we're all going to die. And with that fun thought.
yeah,
Welcome to the Cavern of Mediocre Chaos.
Cavern of Mediocre Chaos, where we talk about mediocre shows for way too long. I mean, when it comes to Highlander, when I found out the quickening, what that was versus what the prize was. So you're going to give up being immortal and never dying so you can have kids. Yeah,
Inky,
I love my
Pinky
kids.
and Clyde.
Yeah.
It's like immortality or Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go peek.
Isn't there an Inkin, Blinkin, Winkin, and Nod? Who were they?
Yeah. They're from a poem.
They're from a poem, right? I have no idea why I know that. I have no idea what the poem's about. I have no idea who wrote the poem. Because for some reason that's in my head.
You went to school when kindergarten was like Sesame Street and they read it to you, sir.
But when Jared went to school, that was probably current events back then.
Yeah. Were they mice or people or musketeers? I don't know.
They were people.
Were they cobblers? I bet there were cobblers. There was always cobblers in stories for kids.
Dave McKenzie, what's up? Rob Ripa. Man,
hello there.
Man, I tell you what, Rob has popped up for so long, and he's done music for so long and everything like that. Man, I swear I think he's been around for like 10 years in one shape or form talking to me, back and forth.
Yeah, okay. Those characters did sail in a wooden shoe. The original title of it was Dutch Lullaby.
But Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde, we all know they are the ghosts from Pac-Man, right? You know that, right?
Okay. I didn't realize.
Clyde,
sounds like they were based on
Blues. See, that's how you knew how to go in Pac-Man. You just always go right turn, Clyde, and then you're good.
So, yeah, the Pac-Man ghost.
The Pac-Man ghost.
Now, I mean, I can't believe I'm doing this, but if you go back, I don't know why they never released them on DVD, and if they're out there, I didn't know it. But the Pac-Man cartoon was better than it should have been.
Yeah,
they had a Saturday morning cartoon with Pac-Man.
I'll take your word for it. I don't think I need to check it out.
The Christmas special is on YouTube somewhere. But it was actually pretty good. I mean, I was surprised. I would say it's maybe if Flintstones is an 8.5, it'd have been a 5. So while everybody's like piling in here and stuff, I know you saw it, Jared, and I can't remember if I sent it to you guys, but I think the slabbing has finally reached a peak of idiocracy. The slabbing of the books. Now, I totally get enjoying the hobby. I totally get wanting to know exactly what you have. I totally get want to buy something and you know exactly what you're buying because of eBay. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I put it on Instagram. If people want to look at the Instagram, just put in Howler Mouse. But a 0.5 is what this grading was of Amazing Spider-Man 361. That's the first appearance of Carnage. The book was beat up, destroyed, detached from the book, right? And CGC graded it a 0.5. A guy puts it on eBay. It did sell for $102.50. And I took pictures of their screenshots. But what got me was while I was like scrolling through when I found that thing, there were raw copies that were going for $44 that looked like very fine or mint. You know what I mean? $45, $12 shipping, that kind of stupid stuff. Still less than $102 for a destroyed, detached book.
Was that the special P.T. Barnum issue?
I mean, it just kind of shows that if it's in plastic, there are people out there like it's graded. Oh, yeah. It's not the comic. It's not that it's the first appearance. It's that I can afford that graded comic.
And I looked at that earlier, and the cover art is terrible. I'm like, why are you bidding money on a book that looks awful just because it's in plastic?
Because people are weird. You know, it's funny. Sometimes I don't own a single CGC comic because
I don't either.
I read my comics. I don't collect them. It's understandable that I don't own one. But every now and then I say to myself, you know what? I should get a CGC comic just to kind of have one in my collection, just as kind of a as a conversation piece or something.
Right.
And I always look on eBay or something to see what's the cheapest CGC comic I could get. And with shipping, it only usually ends up around $35, maybe $40. And I'll spend half an hour looking. I'll go, ooh, maybe that one. Ooh, maybe that one. But then, like, before I put a bid, I'm like, I don't want to pay $40 for that comic. It always ends up like, no matter how many times I've said to myself, I should look at CGC's comics and get one just as a conversation piece. It always ends up with me going, I don't want to pay $40 for that comic, because it's always, a $40 CGC comic is a $4 comic.
I've seen 10 shows get like 200 books for $40.
Yeah,
just one.
Exactly. That's what it always comes down to.
That's crazy.
I'm looking at the price of acrylic sheets, and I can buy two of them, and it's much cheaper than getting the book appraised on CGC.
There's the wrecked comic.
This is the wrecked comic. I don't know if you can see this, but you go down the line, this thing is destroyed, pieces cut out here, not even, and ripped right here where the staple is. And if you go, if you really go down on this comic, chipped all the way around, ripped all the way around. If we flipped it over, I'm sure somebody wiped their ass, which is how I think the wrinkles happened on the front. And because it has a 0.5 on it, it did sell for $102.50, $13 shipping.
Wow. You guys have heard the story of, I think I've told it here, the 0.5 slabbed Walking Dead. It was an issue of Walking Dead that it was when Walking Dead first got hot, 10, 15 years ago, became $1,000 book. And some guy went, oh, I bought that issue. But he bought the issue and then threw it in the back of his car. It was one of those guys who lived in his car, threw it in the back of his car, and it got trampled on. But anyway, he sent it off to CGC. It got, I think, a 0.5 is what it was. It was so wrecked. And Robert Kirkman ended up buying it on eBay for like $500. And Robert Kirkman was like, oh my, I was like, what am I doing? He was the one telling this story. And he was like, I just got caught up in that. It's like, I paid $500 for this wrecked CGC copy of what? He's like, what am I doing? But at least that you can see is a Walking Dead number 1.5. You're not going to, there's only like 2,000 or 3,000 copies of that. That Carnage, there's plenty of copies of that Amazing Spider-Man. You can find however many copies of that you want. You can find a 5.0 copy, wreck it yourself, and send it into CGC for cheaper than buying that one.
Well, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you the comments of, much like the messenger tonight, has frozen up. I don't know what the deal is. I've got a square box that says new comments with a down arrow, and nothing's moving. The last one
it's showing up on mine.
Yeah, the last one I have is this one. So thanks, Incarnations of Immortality.
There's only one comment after that. Last Avengers 85. I remember when 3 Jokers came out and collectors were getting them slabbed. Yeah. They're like the slabbed 9.8 is such a racket for CGC that it's amazing. You send in CGC a box of 3 Jokers, and they will pick out the 9.8s out of the box, charge you for them, and the rest don't go slabbed. It's like it is so easy to get CGC 9.8s these days.
Well, the other thing is people are wanting that 10. They want the perfection. They want a 10. You're not going to get a 10. If they hand out the 10s the way they're supposed to be, it's not going to be special. They put people on a quest. It's like you're chasing the dragon, you'll never catch it. A
9.8 is a 10.
And a 9.8, if you open it up and look at it, like if you were really, looking at the books, 9.4, 9.6, you're not going to tell the difference. 9.2 versus a 9.8. That's a couple $100 different with a 9.2 and a 9.8 from what I saw. And if you open them up, they look exactly the same. You know,
Yeah,
so it's a racket. Yeah,
it is, but it's a racket people enjoy. So, what the heck?
they're making money. Yeah. Like you said, that what, Scott?
We should start our own grading service and just have it go to 11.
Go to 11. My grading service would be like, this book is well loved. You know, this book's been in a box forever. You know, and this is up to 11. Oh my god! So
any new comments coming through? Conan Bronstar showed up.
It's all frozen. It is frozen on my end. I knew it.
It's got to be your internet connection too.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Am I feeling like a robot or anything? Am I good? So
you're good.
All right.
Picking up a little here and there, but that's I can still hear you.
All right. So I know we usually pull out books and stuff, but very rarely do I actually get a book where I'm really happy to have it. And maybe I want to brag. I don't know. I'm a humble guy. I don't really brag that much.
No.
We're only loved as much as that next comic we buy, right?
Go ahead and brag.
I love this one because it has the Garcia Lopez signature.
Right.
But yeah, this is a DC Spotlight that was free in 1985. So I guess if you had a comic book shop like Bougie Jared did down there, not when you're 12 years old and you're having to like run to the spinner rack when you get off the bus because the grown-ups will be off working. You know, so apparently you would get this, and it previewed a bunch of books in '85, and the last page has the Watchmen. That's why it's so big and huge. This is an $80 book if you go by the grading services there. But where it has Garcia Lopez, I'm going to say it's $1,000. No, I would give this a 9.9 myself. If it'd be a 10 if it didn't have that damn ink on it. But,
somebody drew on the front cover and ruined it.
Yeah. So this was my purchase. I'm slowing down. Being sick for a week on the couch last month and not remembering playing on eBay so much. I think I went a little overboard. So this month we reined it in. And I got one little book. I have other books here to bring up for conversation, but did I show this already from last month?
I remember you said you got a bunch of Suicide Squad. You mentioned it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many of the individual issues we saw.
This is either a flashback or a prequel or a continuance of Killing Joke. This is where Batgirl Oracle meets Joker again or something. I can't remember what I paid for it, but I mean, it was like single numbers. I was like, yeah, I'll grab that. Yeah. Nobody was really looking for it. And I grabbed it and it came in, and it really is a mint book. And I think it books for $80. I don't know. But yeah, I've been seeing people talk about this for years because it's got a Killing Joke connection. It's one of three or four books of Suicide Squad that's actually a key, right? So I got that too. So
See that is an example of comic book fans making derivatives. Have you ever heard of the people? People always say the financial mechanism derivatives, and people always say, no one can really explain derivatives, but it's actually easy to explain derivatives because it's in the name. They derive their value from something that's already of value. Oh, Tim disappeared. So people try to convince you that this book has something to do with the Killing Joke, which is a valuable book. So they try to turn other, people are always trying to turn other, this book, because it's, because it's like the Killing Joke, that's a derivative. They try to turn stuff into derivatives of popular books. I don't think it's ever worked in a comic I can think of, but I've seen people try to this is even stuff like, Batman Year 2. Like Batman Year 1 is popular, so let's make a derivative of a Batman Year. Nobody tries to sell you Batman Year 2 as a popular thing, though. But if they did, it would be a derivative.
See, that's what's sad is like I'm like Pat Broderick did that. That was sacred to me. But you're right. It's a sequel, maybe more than but
that you're right. That one is more of a sequel. That's but like and I have seen that with other books where people go, well, this one is related to Dark Knight Returns or something like that, or Killing Joke or something that's popular. They try to make a derivative out. Like I said, I don't think it's ever worked because.
Sometimes I think they try, like the first time that Scott Lang appears in the Avengers comic. Mm-hmm. It's a derivative of his Marvel premiere appearances.
Right. Or even things like that Malibu Sun with the first ad for Spawn in it is a derivative. When they're and like the Watchmen, when they're trying to sell you an ad as a first appearance, they're trying to make it into a derivative. It derives its value from the Watchmen. It derives its value from Spawn. Without Spawn existing, without Spawn being popular, no one would care about an ad for Spawn.
Well, it comes down to, I think, in the long run, whatever these things are, where they're trying to say that the preview issues are worth money and all that stuff. Once you get off of people being online and people who don't play around with YouTube and people who don't watch certain channels, they look at you like you're stupid. It may be working for people now, but in the long run, you lost some money is what's going to happen.
Right.
Now,
all of us on YouTube are like sharing what we like with each other. So when you like to find, the first appearance of the ad for Watchmen, you're getting other people excited about it too.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're watching YouTube and sharing your enthusiasms of YouTube, it's easy to work up that enthusiasm amongst all us YouTubers. When you get out there to the people who don't watch YouTube, they're like, what? You want me to get excited about an ad for the Watchmen? So you're right about that.
Yeah. I told you about a YouTuber years ago who I won't give his name up because his channel is still up, even though he doesn't use it, but he got busted. Mm-hmm. He would hype these books up and put them on eBay, or they'd already be on eBay. And he had enough followers to where the price would go up on eBay. And then somebody tracked the P.O. box down that lived locally. And they said outside the P.O. box, it was a town over from where the dude lived, and he busted him. It was his eBay page. I mean, it was quite the scandal, when this happened. And I say like it was just a couple years ago. I'm remembering where I was living. It could have been like 2014 or 15.
Yeah,
but I remember today.
I think everything was from 3 to 5 years ago, and it turns out it's 15 years ago. And I'm like, oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm doing a thing with 1985. There's things I'm like, John Byrne got on the Hulk in 1985. Like I remember it like it was at least 30 years ago, not 36. Okay, mind the comic. Brom Star is here, and we have Sleepy.
I only got 4 comics this week at the comic shop. It was much more of the last month I've gotten like 8 to 10 comics a week, which is very unusual for me. 4 is much more normal and much more in my budget. But I got 2 pull list books and 2 I pulled off the shelf. But the first one this one really surprised me. Radiant Black, issue 4. It's got some good artwork, and this let me show you this This reminded me of the Merc from Nexus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
I showed up to talk to, but I'm going to spoil it a little because there was such a twist at the end that I have to spoil it and tell it because nobody here's reading it anyway. But this reminds me of The Greatest American Hero. In that this guy who's 30-something years old, a failed writer, moves home because he's got no money, living with his parents, trying to figure out what he's do. Hooks up with his friend who he went to high school with, his buddy who he hasn't seen in a while, hanging out with him. Then one night they're out drinking, and they run into this glowing orb that he touches and gives him this radiant black suit. So now, the last 4 issues, he and his buddy have been trying to figure out what to do with this suit. They don't know. And some other guy in a red suit shows up and has been fighting him for some reason, trying to tell him to stay out of his way. The big twist in this issue was at the end of this issue, our lead character, the writer, gets into a fight with this guy in the red suit, and things get out of hand more than either of them wanted to, and their building they're in starts collapsing. So the writer guy is trying to save people and hold up the building, and the building collapses and kills him. And then this merc guy, whoever he is, we don't know, gives the suit to his friend. So by issue 4, we've got a new lead character, and our original lead character is dead, and that just doesn't happen. So I was like all excited about that. I'm like, oh, cool. Let's see what happens.
But on the other hand, in this big trend over the last 5 or 10 years to really replace all your heroes, they did it in story. At least they did it right. You follow what I'm saying? That's where I'm at. You want to change somebody? Do it in story.
And what's interesting is they were giving a little foreshadow, because the two of them were having a conversation. The friend was like, well, I'm a little more imaginative with this stuff, so pay attention, because I can probably figure out more stuff to do with this suit. So it was like, we'll see if that guy stays dead. I hope he does, because one of the things I like about indie comics, what I love about indie comics, and one of the things that made me stop reading one of my favorites, which was, oh God, his name just flew, Deadly Class, which I loved, is in indie comics in general, death is death, because they're not intellectual property. When someone dies, they die. Maybe they figure out a way in story for them to come back. Maybe they don't, but usually they never do. When someone dies in an indie comic, they're dead. It's like a novel. Deadly Class was one of my favorite comics until what they did was around Deadly Class is about a high school for assassins.
Right, yeah.
Which is, again, one of those concepts I had to overcome my own prejudice in order to start reading it, because that's just the dumbest idea ever.
We'll continue. I'm not going to divert us off of this, but I'm ready, man. I'm ready. What I'm like.
But anyway, it was really, really good. I really, really enjoyed Deadly Class for the first 25 issues or so, because one of the things that happened, because it was a high school for assassins, people died. And then you found out at the end, what they did in this high school was there was people who were there was basically the rich kids. They were all the legacy guys, like the sons and daughters of powerful crooks, and there was some people that picked up off the street who had talent. Well, it turned out your final project was the kids who were paying their way there had to kill the scholarship kids. That was their final test. That was the finals. So what happened was the lead character, who we've been following since issue 1, died in this culling of the class. And then they restarted it with a new class of kids where it was like that year was over, and then they had a whole bunch of freshmen come in who you now got to. Well, it upset people, of course, that they killed the lead character. But I actually liked that they killed the lead character, because that gave stakes to everything. But then, 3 issues later, they brought the lead character back because they, faked his death by giving him special herbs that made him, even though you saw him run through with a sword, they gave him special herbs that made it look like he died. And then the other character nursed him back to death. I'm like, nursed him back to life? Is she a surgeon? When you get run through with a sword, you need a surgeon or you die. And you can die with a surgeon. So it's like after that, there was no life or death stakes with me in the book. So I read it for maybe another 10 issues, and it just disappointed. It's still really well done. The guys,
the Deadly Class thing reminded me of Wanted, the movie, more than the book, even though the movie just took the good stuff from the book. And when I see anything that's in a high school now and they're teaching something that's not reading, writing, arithmetic, it's Harry Potter. So this to me, it was like I know just enough about Harry Potter to be like, oh, this is what the Slytherins do, you know. So I can't take it serious. And the thing about the death of what you're saying, absolutely. Once you like take death off the board and it's not permanent, there's no risk, there's no tension, there's no stakes. It's over, you know.
Yeah. Sleepy Reader says magic. Yeah. They were actually science herbs, but I'm pretty sure that that's the same thing. I don't think there's any drug or herb you can give someone to cure them of being run through with a sword.
I don't know. And it was the story Freak Brothers.
And it was a real dramatic moment too in the story, because it was his own friend, maybe even his girlfriend, who had to kill him because she had no choice. If she didn't kill him, she would be killed. So it was this real heart-wrenching, dramatic moment that you don't get in comics. You know, you don't get in most stories. And to have that all just, you know, done away with and then once again, every person from then on in, every person who died in the book, I went, he's not really dead.
Well, I went a little different on with a little take, because you understand, I basically read this Deadly Class. Right. I didn't thoroughly read it. I was actually standing in a shop just doing this. Okay, you know what I mean? But I was like, "This is the ending to the Dark Phoenix saga." You know?
Sounds like Heather's to me.
Heather's Dark Phoenix saga. I mean, I just kept seeing. I was like, everything that was in there, I couldn't tell if it was an influence, but I was like, this. I felt like I'd seen it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it was a really well done, but like Wes Craig, that's who drew it, right? Was that his? He is a fantastic artist. I mean, he did he's Mike's cousin. Fantastic art in the book. They did probably the best chase scene I've ever read in a comic in issue 6. I think it was around issue 6, because chase scenes are so hard to do in comics. How many good chase scenes have you seen in comics?
Who did Danger Girl? Is that J. Scott Campbell?
Yeah, J. Scott Campbell.
I didn't do it, but I almost picked up Danger Girl when it was coming out, because he did an interview where he was like, I will make a car chase scene work in a comic. So maybe one. There might be one out there. I don't know if he did.
Yeah, Sleepy Reader said Wes Craig is very high level. Oh yeah, that was A+ art. He is such a good story. It broke my heart to have to stop. It broke my heart that Deadly Class stopped being good for me. I sold my issues off to some fan in Germany thanks to the TV show happening.
There you go.
Because it's funny. After I quit buying it around issue like 27 or so, I was like, you know what? The book has gotten so disappointing to me. I want to sell my issues, which I hardly ever do. Being that I'm an indie collector, I hardly ever stop buying it. A comic almost never falls off my pull list because I'm an indie guy, and the comic either ends or the same people keep doing it. It's like nothing. I never pull anything off my pull list. So that's probably the only book I've taken off my pull list in 10 years. So it was just like,
That's pretty nice. Oh, man. So you got an echo. It got quiet in this house here, man. So sometimes there's like low-hanging fruit out there, but
right.
Two things that amaze me here, right? And I don't know if these are anything, but it's something I think's kind of missing from comics, and there's no control over it. I think there's no control over this. I don't think you can go in wanting to write something and make it this way. But one of the books I always pick up, if they're in pretty good shape, is the Alan Moore Superman annual, which I realized again today, this is from 85. I swear I thought this came out when in 83. You know what I mean? Like, I read that book. Yeah. And what's cool about picking this one up is you won't be able to see it, but somebody like put paper on it and like traced over it, and you can feel the pen. They went down.
Okay. Practicing their tracing on it.
Yeah, it amazes me that everybody's probably read this story by Alan Moore and Superman, for the man who has everything. La la la. It's been everybody knows that, but you can still go back and read it, and it's fresh. It takes place in the North Pole, right? So there's no technology. There's nothing to date it. You know what I mean? You put, and that was also the trick was Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It's out in the swamp in the wild. There's not a lot to really date the book. You don't have cell phone service out there. But the other book that I always get, which actually did come out in '83, I always get these DC Comics Presents with Superman and OMAC with George Perez drawing it.
Okay.
And if you look real close, this is like an homage to the Flash of Two Worlds cover. You got Superman on one side, OMAC on the other. But this is where I was like, oh my God, George Perez drawing Kirby characters is the best thing yet. This also came out a year before the Terminator movie, and it's the same plot. A year before the movie. But I showed this years ago on YouTube, just kind of talking about it. And I got told, I'm like, you need to go watch. I can't remember what it was. You need to go watch The Outer Limits of the Twilight Zone. There's 2 episodes they ripped off with the Terminator movie. And I mean, people are huffy with me. But I'm realizing these are like my 5th issues, and I can like read and reread these. I love this little simple story. In one comic book, you get a complete story about coming back in time, meeting Superman, raising hell, and it's all good. It even has a vague ending,
I think I have that one on my shelf. I'm not sure, though. I'm going to have to look. That's Superman. Someone on Twitter, I don't know who, there had something going around the other day that said something like, what scenes from a comic book live in your head? And that Superman annual, the one where Superman looks at Robin, is it, and says, "Who did this to me?" is one that lives in my head, right? That one, that annual. Who lives in my head? Who did this to me?
Yeah.
Going back to what you said earlier about the North Pole, is there any other character that had a place called the Fortress of Solitude up in the North Pole area?
Yes.
What's that? Was there?
I've seen that before.
Was there? I don't want to say because I'm thinking pulp. Are we going way back to the pulps?
That's Doc Savage.
Yeah.
Did he have a giant key that only he could lift and fly with? That's my favorite part of the Fortress of Solitude.
No, but
his
first name was Clark as well.
Yeah.
With a keyhole you could walk
Kent's first name is Clark.
I have what's I'm not going to say. I'm got a Doc Savage book. I've been kind of like piecing through that Charlton 66. He sent me a couple of them, and I'm actually thinking I'm slowly reading the one that has the Fortress of Solitude in it. That's why I was like doing this. Like I think I'm reading that now. So.
Yeah.
C. Woodward has popped in. Constant Bromstar thinks Alan Moore that he's down with the Alan Moore.
That is one of the best Superman stories, definitely. That's what made that and his, whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow are what made me realize Superman did not need a John Byrne revamp. It needed a good writer.
Yeah.
Because those came out just before the John Byrne Superman #1 where they redid Superman.
See, this is what's so cool about this. You can throw something out there. And Constant Bromstar is on it. Demon with a Glass Hand is the Terminator story before all of them,
Well, yeah. Who was the writer? Tim, you may know this. Who was the writer of Demon with a Glass Hand?
I can go look it up. I have it in there.
Okay.
I haven't gone through my.
Same writer wrote the story Soldier that was also in The Outer Limits.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Same writer, Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
Well, what was I just watching today? I was watching a video. Oh, I can't remember who made it. One of the guys who's been around for a while and hasn't made videos. Oh, I can't remember his name, but he was showing off. I didn't realize that. The movie They Live?
Yeah.
By John.
Mm-hmm.
The idea from that comes, according to this video I was watching, comes from an issue of Alien Encounters. The who made that? Eclipse first?
Right back.
The series from the 80s?
Yeah, but Bruce Jones wrote a lot of those.
Yeah.
He wrote a good percentage of them.
I think the people collect that one issue because They Live comes from that story. I never knew that.
That's actually a good series, the Alien Encounters.
Oh, yeah. I bought that. Matter of fact, I was just I'm like, do I have, because he was saying he bought a lot of like all 14 issues. I'm like, do I have all 14 issues? I don't know. I haven't seen them in so long. They're in on the shelf, but I'll have to look.
I have my Twilight Zone companion that goes through every episode.
Let me ask you a question, Tim. There's 2 books that are very similar. Is that the one that's written by Mark Scott Zekri, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, this is Mark. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's two books like that. They're very similar to each other. They're both really good.
This one came out.
That's a good book.
This one came out I think in '82, but I bought it in 2003. I think
there's a revised edition that came out later.
I actually got this at Disney World. That's why I remember what year it was. So.
The next comic I got off my pull list was a real good one. I'll see if Sleepy has read this one yet. Rain Like Hammers, issue 5 of 5. Nice. This series has made me a Brandon Graham fan.
I want to read that, but every time I see that logo, I'm just like,
and the logo's
tough. That out,
When I almost didn't buy this series because of the logo. I saw the logo in Comic Shop Weekly in the front, and I went, "Oh God, that logo is awful. I hate logos I can't read." So I didn't. If they didn't happen to have a shelf copy of this issue 1, I would have missed it because I didn't put it on my pull list because I saw that logo and oh my God, I hate that logo. So sometimes something as goofy as a logo can keep me from buying something, but. It's really, really good. It ended really, really well. I mean, it was one of those I wasn't sure how they were going to pull off the end because it was as much a walk through this weird Brandon Graham world as it was a story. So it was and I was really enjoying the walk through the Brandon Graham world. But I had no idea how he was gonna wrap it up as a story. As a matter of fact, he said in the back here he first intended this to be some short stories, but then they kind of tied themselves together, and that's kind of. But it ended in a really, really satisfying way. So Sleepy hasn't read it yet, so I won't. There's no reason to describe the satisfying way it ended in because it won't make sense to anyone who hasn't been reading it. But all the sort of little strange webs got tied together in a satisfying, if not a brilliant, just a satisfying way. It was a good ending, which is not. It wasn't hugely dramatic. It wasn't oh my goodness, the war is over. Kind of. It was just really well done. Matter of fact, this and Birthright has had one of the best endings of a comic I've seen. Because they've been doing a 6-issue arc after the war ended to wrap things up, which you never see. And it's once again, it's been really satisfying, the ending of Birthright, because they've been taking care of all these details that, most stories end when the big war is over. You get the end of the Star Wars scene with them having that big ceremony giving each other medals, and that's where it ends. We have a whole other story arc at the end of Birthright, so that was and this one had a lot of the story ended, and then we've got Sleepy's favorite. This might be my favorite comic of the year too.
Nice.
I very much enjoyed it all the way through.
Here's what's funny: I met Bruce Jones, and he's there with his wife, and I went blank. I couldn't. This is pre-Hulk, before he got on the Hulk, but I should have known he was in the book. Because he was selling prints of his artwork. That guy drew, I have it in here, he drew a Hulk that looks exactly like a Kirby Gray Hulk from the 60s. Right? I get this print maybe 3 or 4 months later, his book hits the stands where he's writing the Hulk back then. That was hilarious. Scott, Comic Crack says you got to get past something here. It's something.
The logo on Rain Like Hammers.
Nice. It's just the logo's crappy. That's all.
Yeah.
Gore Vidal read Rain Like Hammers, 3 issues only. He enjoyed it very much.
There's so much in Rain. Here's another thing I was talking about last week. I ended up putting Silver Coin on my pull list, the one I was unsure about last week. I've said I read everything twice before I put it away. I read it once the week it comes out, and then I usually read the comic. Depending on how many comics I read, either later on that week or the next week. And Silver Coin was the one I told. It was as an anthology story with the silver coin that is kind of the MacGuffin that makes things happen. And this story was the one that was about a little girl who was going away to summer camp, and she liked those, Friday the 13th horror movies she was watching the night before. Of course, horror things happen at the summer camp. Reading it the second time through, I enjoyed it a lot more. I don't know. And that's what happens with the second time through. Sometimes when I'm reading, especially a book like that, the first time through, I'm wondering what it is. And sometimes, like in a regular book, the first time through, I'm caught up in the plot. And the second time through, I can see a lot more that happens. It's like I'm not as caught up in the plot, so I can see the subtle stuff that's going on, especially with something like Rain Like Hammers. The second time through, but with that one, I really enjoy. I was just kind of along for the ride the second time through, and I noticed all the little details and stuff that I didn't notice the first time through because I was too busy going, "What is this thing?"
Yeah, there's books and movies and everything that I've done the same thing with.
Yeah.
But what I like is when I don't like. I was talking about The Big Lebowski, and I was talking about Cold Mountain and a few other movies and stuff. When that happens with movies, I didn't really like the movie the first time around. Second time around, I'm like, this is so damn good. Things like that. Right.
But, that can happen with expectations too. One movie that really did that for me was Swingers was a minor hit when it came out, the Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Swingers a whole lot. The next movie those two came out together was called Made, and it was a dud. And one of the reasons it was a dud was everybody, including me, expected Swingers 2. We expected it to be more Swingers kind of thing, because everybody really enjoyed Swingers. And it was I was really disappointed with it when I saw it. But then it was back in the days of cable. It's funny how we don't watch TV like this anymore. The movie you're flipping around, the movie's on, I'd just leave it on. I'd leave it on as I worked. And my friend Dave Sharp, who's a letterer, also used to do this all the time. Like everybody used to do this back in the day. But and both of us were like, after Made was on a little, we'd catch a part of it here, catch a part, and we both grew to really like it because we had to overcome our disappointment that it wasn't Swingers and see it for what it is, which was a really good, funny movie, but just completely different than Swingers, completely different tone and everything.
I'm going to go ahead and say that it might look like I have Tourette sometime during the show, but there was a series, there was a comic book series that's killing me now that I was into. I was reading it. I was like, this is great. I was pushing it. And then I got to the end and I was like, this is pure shit. I had to apologize to people for I'm sorry you wasted money. And they were like, but I like it. And I'm like, did you get to the end?
An ending can ruin stuff,
Yeah, I Frankencastle, Punisher turning into a monster. I was giving it a chance. Did a whole video about it.
M. Night Shyamalan made that had Bruce Willis and Sam Jackson in it.
Unbreakable?
Yeah, Unbreakable. I liked that movie to the last 10 minutes. Now I wanted to throw a brick at it.
Oh, no. I thought
I liked that one.
I get to hating it just like that.
I like the whole trilogy. Yeah.
Expectations killed M. Night Shyamalan. Because everybody had expectations for some mind-blowing twist at the end of his movies. Right. And he just didn't, you can't, and when everybody's waiting for the mind-blowing twist and trying to figure it out and watching for it, it's never going to be satisfying.
Right.
I like John Cusack, right? I do. I like John Cusack. But the movie High Fidelity, I couldn't sit through. It was so weird. I couldn't figure out why I didn't like it.
I like that one. Man.
Well, some of my friends, Mike and oh god, what was it? Anyway, this is I ended up finding a copy at a gas station, that was used for $1. And I give this a chance again because he's like, Tim, you really need to watch it. It's you if it was comic books instead of records. And I'm like, Oh, yeah. So I go home and I watch it again, and I'm with my first wife at the time. And every time he talks about a girl in that movie, about an old girlfriend, this time my ex-wife was right there in my face going, "That's Stephanie. Don't you tell me that's not Stephanie." That's why I didn't like the movie. It hit too close to home. I dated every one of those girls, and my ex-wife knew each one at the time. So, yeah. But somebody said something about Excalibur. Do you guys have anything to say about Excalibur? I love the movie. Okay,
the shiniest armor ever. That's all I have to say about Excalibur. That's all I took away from that.
It's the best Arthurian movie.
A lot of people love it. I'm indifferent towards it, except the shiny armor. I really man, that armor is shiny. Holy cow! Armor was never that shiny ever, except in that movie.
The movie, I wouldn't say, when I was a kid, I was enthralled because I couldn't figure out why it felt weird. There was so much weird stuff to say. I never saw anything like that. Now, when I watch it, I don't feel like I'm transported to Arthurian times. I feel like it's a different planet. That movie almost feels like sci-fi to me when I watch it. It's shot in such a unique way. I mean, I've never seen a movie that actually looks like that movie. You know,
he used a lot of filters on that movie.
Yeah,
I find people there's a certain amount of people who love Excalibur, and the rest of us are indifferent to it.
To me, it's the best Arthurian movie, but it still has some problems.
Yeah.
There's
no Arthurian movie has yet to be made. Still,
I've never read the book, but everybody says the high fidelity book is a lot better than the movie, and I enjoy the movie, so I would like to read that book someday.
High Fidelity is a great book, and another great book is called, and they made a movie out of it. That's the whole point. Called "It's Kind of a Funny Story." Two great books that actually had decent movies made about them. We lost a bunch of people talking about Excalibur. Damn.
The next comic I got actually came out last week, but it wasn't in my budget last week, and so I picked it up. This is by Declan Shavy writing it. Who's drawing it? Hold on. I don't even know. Joe Palmer is drawing it. And I have the same exact opinion of this that Sleepy Reader had, in that he made it his book of the week last week. This was a really, really good first issue. But I have no idea how good the second issue is going to be. Because it set up the story in such a way that the setup isn't the story, but the setup was so well done that but I have no idea what the story is going to be, because the story is about time travel. And they live in some world where they have, he's to call him a time travel agent is too fancy. He's just some guy whose job it is to deliver people to certain times that they pay for. And they were given these time travel machines by somebody in the future. And they're like not the best machines in the world. And I think they're also killing it's like they're killing the guys who run the time. It's like you get some sort of you might get some sort of sickness by running these machines, but it's a living, and they live in a time that's pretty bad. So the whole thing is about this guy thinking about how he should escape to some other time with the time travel machine. But you also get the idea that's not explicit that there's some sort of time cops who will come. He's an indentured servant. That's right. There's some sort of debt he owes. You get the idea that there's some sort of time cops who will come and set things straight if you mess things up. So this whole issue is his life in him wanting to escape. And of course, by the end of the issue, through a really well-told story, he escapes. But we just have no idea what he's going to do now. Now that he has escaped everything that's in this issue, what's the story? So this issue was top-notch. Excellent, excellent issue. I just have no idea what comes next.
Right. Cool.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And time travel is an endless pain in the head.
Yes.
It should be.
Yeah. Because I'm of the notion that once time travel is invented, time travel is always invented. So the idea that they've only got a certain amount of machines to time travel with is absurd.
Right.
Because like I said, once, as far as we know, there's only this moment. There's no past, there's no future. We can't get there. The past does not exist, the future does not exist. There's only the now.
Oh,
As
great.
soon
I'm
as
not going
time,
to get dinner, am I?
right. As soon as time travel is invented in your story, that means the past still exists and the future already exists. And you can get there. So that, which means that time isn't linear. As far as we know, time is linear. We can't go anywhere but forward, and we can't live anywhere but this
way
moment.
Humans perceive time is considered to be
right. But that's all we got. That's all we got.
This is one. You got what else you got, Scott? I couldn't.
Oh, you start studying quantum physics and things, and boy, things get really strange.
Oh yeah, things get. But still, as far as we know, the past doesn't exist anymore, and the future doesn't exist. That's as far as we know.
What
was that?
What if you're a reenactor?
But as soon as you say it all exists at once, that means time travel is already invented, and that means time machines are everywhere.
See,
because they exist now, and they can come back here and leave a time machine. They can come. There can be if an infinite amount of time exists, an infinite amount of time machines exist.
But what happens if all the time machines break down except one, and you don't have the technology to fix it?
That's what happened in this comic. Well, at least all the time machines in this one time.
That's
I assume the time cop
annoyed me about Star Trek the past few years. Is like I like Star Trek better when it had less time travel than Doctor Who does.
That's why when I see a time travel thing, either explain the rules simply and stick to them. Like Star Trek always drove me crazy because, and sometimes in Star Trek you can't change the past. Sometimes in Star Trek, if you change the past, you just create an alternate future. It's like
this is what I was wanting to get at. This is what's amazing. If you have read comics as a kid and you read anything Fantastic Four, or maybe checked out the Doctor Who show, here it is for some of us over 40 years later, around the time Paolo was being born, and we've all existed since then. If you want to go, But we can sit here and actually have a coherent conversation about quantum mechanics of time travel, thanks to reading and watching this crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to me, there should be no more time travel stories if somebody can't be innovative. John Byrne, in comics, to me, John Byrne is the guy that just used that as much as he could everywhere, and stuff like that. Nobody's been real innovative with it, and even the last Avengers movie there went after Back to the Future, which that might have been the big flaw in the movie for me. I'm like, you leave those movies alone, man. You can even kill Thanos. You didn't go for the headshot. I'm like, I don't respect your opinion on Back to the Future and time travel. But I mean, isn't that not wild that you can meet anybody who read a Fantastic Four comic as a kid, and all of a sudden you can talk time travel with them? I'm being serious.
Comics taught me critical thinking as a kid.
Yeah, I guess that's the word. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, because we were always arguing about continuity, or could this happen, or could that. You had to get those comic writers had to get, if they didn't get their story straight, we would pick apart those stories.
Yeah. We had the power. But I still have the Fantastic Four book where I found out some distance of traveling in space. You know what I mean? Like, because the editor's note would tell you how far Reed Richards was talking about in space.
Oh, like an astronomical unit?
Yeah.
When Star Wars got parsecs wrong, we all knew it.
Yeah. They tried to explain that, and nobody cared by this point. Yeah. But I just love how we can actually go through and have a big time travel story. You know, some of us, you know, it could be Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom. It could be John Byrne Zomac or John Byrne anything. Or
one of my favorite little time travel bits came up when Scott Koblish was drawing Deadpool a few years ago, where they had Deadpool was doing some time traveling for some reason, and he ran into like time traveling Hitler. And Hitler had all these weapons from time travelers kept going back in time to try and kill Hitler, but he'd kill them and take their weapons. Because he was used to it. He's like, oh, geez, another time traveler is here. And he'd kill them and get whatever stuff they had. I was like, oh, geez, time traveling Hitler with all these weapons because the time travelers keep trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Man.
The speculator boom. And the greatest time travel insult I ever read, Fabian Nicieza.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Used to have on his door. He doesn't remember this either. I've talked to him about it. And in the 90s, he had on, like, occasionally, you know, they'd get Marvel would get letters, of course, from fans. Sometimes they'd get letters from disgruntled fans.
Tell everybody who Fabian Nicieza is. I found out we have people not old enough to realize.
He worked at Marvel Comics, editor, writer, co-creator of Deadpool. Lots of other stuff he's been writing since the 90s. And told Tim that his opinion on Deadpool doesn't matter.
There was somebody else involved in that. He said
Bunch,
y'all.
yeah.
He said y'all.
Well, at least Bunch knows him, so he expects it. But anyway, that's another whole other story. But anyway, on his Marvel, they would get some of the disgruntled letters would be amusing, so you'd read them or stick them up on your office door. And Fabian had one. I can't remember what he was writing at the time, but somebody wrote in a letter that said, we should build a time machine and send Fabian to the future so he can suck there too.
Wow, that's hard.
That's savage. That would hurt my feelings about that. Like I couldn't laugh about that one. You know,
there's a creative insult. I like that one. I remembered it all these years.
Listen to the future so he can suck there too.
That's a good one.
I would be destroyed. I'd have no comeback. I mean, how do you come back from that? How do you get a comeback from that?
Give me about a minute and I could come up with a decent comeback.
Hey, the jerk store called. They're out of you.
So I hear you're starting there tomorrow morning, huh?
Oh, man. That's not good.
Oh, I did something this week.
And the last comic I got this week, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, wait. Scott's got something, man. You want to show yours before or after, man? Scott never shows anything.
It's on sale at Amazon.
What do you got?
Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Wait.
Wrong
Scott,
person.
Wait. Now, there you go.
Hold it up again, Scott. Let's see.
$5 on sale at Amazon.
Justice League. They made it. They made an animated one. I've forgotten about that. I still have to read the comic.
It's Blu-ray.
And I had a gift card coupon for exactly $5. With tax, this ended up costing me 27 cents.
All right. That's how much my deodorant cost me. Coincidentally, they had a coupon and a sale, and I got a thing of Brute deodorant for 27 cents.
I think I came out with a better bargain. I could be wrong.
Conan Bromstar says $10. Says Jared wrote that about Fabian. I wish I did. That was a good one.
You'd take credit for that if you wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. That's a good one. That amused me. Some water.
Comic Crack asked if I'd watch it. I've actually seen the animated movie like 3 or 4 times. I haven't watched the commentary tracks yet.
I still have to read The Last Frontier. I never read it.
Really good.
It gets nothing but praise, and still I haven't gotten around to reading it.
Somebody asked me once what I would do to fix modern superhero comics. And the first thing that popped in my brain is like, bring Darwin Cook back to life and have him do all of them.
Yeah, that'd be
We can do
nice.
it with magic herbs.
Yes, only we had some of those.
But we don't have a magic herb.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just saw someone.
I'm still pissed off about Darwin Cook dying because I only have 4 Parker adaptations and I wanted more.
So who hasn't read the New Frontier yet? Was that you, Jared?
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to read the New Frontier and play Black Sabbath in the background. You can't quit until you go all the way through both of them.
Black Sabbath is not an appropriate soundtrack for the New Frontier.
Black Sabbath is appropriate for any damn thing on this earth.
No.
Yes.
You see what I did there? You see that?
Fire in the pod.
You're going to get a job in a washing machine factory as the head agitator there.
No.
Now the Blu-ray that I want to get, and I can't pull the trigger because it's still like $20. Which, yes, I'm a cheap bastard. But it's that JSA World War II one that's out now because it's got a 10-minute short of Commandy done in Jack Kirby style. Like the clips that I've seen right off the cover of #1. He's in the raft going through New York, and it's all Kirby style. And I found out it's only 10 minutes. Now, you know, I've got animated Commandy on Brave and the Bold cartoon series. But I'm really wanting a whole series done like that if they're going to do it Jack Kirby style. I mean, just do #1 all the way up to 40, you know.
This is I pulled this off the shelf, and it was the last comic I got of the week, Ed Piskor's Red Room. And I had no idea what to expect from it because I know he's been doing a lot of videos showing him working on it and stuff. The artwork is really, really nice. He does this. I'd almost call it a underground Drew Friedman style, where he's doing just lots of tiny little ink lines. But if I had to compare it to something, of all the weird comparisons, I would compare it to Doomsday Clock.
Oh, no.
Only because I can't figure out what the point is. In that, first of all, it's gruesome. It's entering crossed territory in terms of disturbing because there's and the artwork is it's let me see if it says in the back. He says do red rooms. What a red room is it's a murder room. It's supposedly where someone is murdered for other people's entertainment, sort of like underground thing. It's like the modern day snuff film thing. Yeah. And he says in the Comic Crack says that's the only point is I could tell violence and over the top gore. Yeah, the problem was it wasn't entertaining violence and over the top gore. It was violence and over top gore with a point. And the point was, like he said, he says in the back, do red rooms really exist? I don't know. I don't think so. But he wanted to figure out if red rooms really existed, how would they work, kind of thing. So so the reason I compare it to Doomsday Clock is that Doomsday Clock was all about figuring out if Watchmen existed in the DC universe, how would that work? And they put all this energy and creativity into answering that question, and just nobody was interested in that question. And with this, like with Crossed, the over-the-top violence and gore is to make an entertaining story. That's the point of it. I've also read things with over-the-top violence and gore where the point is to make over-the-top violence and gore. This over-the-top violence and gore, the point is to explore how red rooms would really work. And that just makes me go, huh? That, of course, then makes me criticize how he thinks red rooms are. Like one of the things he compares it to is pornography. In that the only thing really new about a murder being showed on screen would be a new person doing it, a new persona, a new person. So the way these red rooms work, first of all, there's a family that lives off in some house somewhere, and they run this whole thing, and they have themselves cut, because of course they'd have to be cut off. Like, a lot of thought was put into how red rooms could possibly work, and which makes me go, that's what you're spending your time thinking? That especially since it can be picked apart so easily. Like, because first of all, he had to figure out all of this, because one of the things, have you ever seen like movies and stuff that are about snuff films? I'm always like, the problem with the idea of snuff films is filming your crime is a really, really bad idea. Because it's evidence. If you film your crime,
look,
they got filmed evidence of your crime, and we'll go find you. And
I'm finding it very interesting that a lot of what we're talking about can go back to movies, because you've already, we went through the Rob Zombie movies in the comments here.
Right.
You got, I think it was called 8mm, where there was snuff films with a Nick Cage movie. You had Hostel, where it felt like somebody was writing about something they knew about. You know what I mean? Like, Hostel was the horror movie where I just admitted, like, they'd have got me. Those bastards would have got me. You know what I mean? Like, I watched that movie like it was the perfect bait if I was 22 or something. You know what I mean? So you come to something like that, and it's almost like he's trying to do a movie pitch for a bad 70s Grindhouse movie or something. Is what it sounds like, But you got to write what you know about. You know what I mean? It sounds like he's just watched a bunch of.
If you don't know anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think he said a lot of people were recommending movies and stuff like that. This is about, and it's like one of the things that cracked me up. That was just like that. I was just like, that would never work. And it's like I said, they have the stars of these snuff films. They have to bring in from outside onto their compound or whatever it is, their house. Strangely
enough, there's been stuff like this in history where there was a photographer in the 20s that posed women just like Jack the Ripper murders. You know what I mean? Right. Like, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
But anyway, in order to, we've all seen TV shows or whatever. One of my favorite lines that I'll never, the TV show. Oh, what's the name of it? The name of Jeffrey Donovan. The one where he's a spy. All of a sudden, I forget the name of it. Burn Notice. That's it. And he's forever being, taken off to places, and they put a black hood over your head. Guys in a van put a black hood over your head and drag you away.
Yeah,
that's and one of his lines that always stick to my head is that from that show is when he explains what's happening, and he's like, sometimes they wash the hood, sometimes they don't. And that's like a trope that's in all TV shows or movie, the black hood, and they drag him off.
Sometimes you eat a bar and the bar eats you. Comic Crad said that he told his wife he was a teenager he'd been all over that book and loved it. Right. And DaCosta says that in a hangout that Shudder, the guy, I guess he's mentioning the guy that made the book, said in a hangout that Shudder was looking into it as a movie.
Yeah, I watched DaCosta's first impressions of this, so that's where I got the idea, because he watched DaCosta watched some of Ed Piskor's hangouts where he was inking the book.
Yeah.
So that's where I got some of my backstory on him talking to his fans. But one of the, like I said, but instead of putting like a black hood over somebody's head and dragging them into and these are their stars. Like they somehow find these guys who will do murder on screen, and they bring them. They get these guys and they give them anesthesia, so they're out cold. And he's like, do we really have to do this? But meanwhile, also part of the story is one of the guys wasn't popular anymore, So they wanted to get rid of him. So once again, they give him anesthesia coming and they give him anesthesia going, rather than just the Black Hood.
I think
at the beginning of the story, they give one of the guys anesthesia, and then they just kill him and bury him somewhere because he's not a star anymore. They want to get rid of him. They don't want him around. I'm like, these murderers are just going to let you anesthetize them? I am like, that to me seems enough. But that's how deep his thinking went on how a red room could really exist, and that he didn't think Black Hoods would be enough to bring these guys in. They'd figure, so he's got this anesthesia angle.
Well, this is what I was about to bring up. Just a minute ago. Jawbreakers was a movie that my wife liked, and I kind of remembered it. I remember thinking it was a Heather's Wannabe movie, but they get the girl, and they put the hood over. Before they put the hood over her head, though, they stick a big jawbreaker in her mouth, put the duct tape over it, then put the hood over. And then when they pull it off, she died. But what got me is the jawbreaker was sticking out this far, like a coin,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just what it put me in mind of. And that's kind of what it sounds like the book is like right there with it.
Oh, it's really the artwork in it is spectacular. You know what and they have all this graphic murder and gore stuff. But the part that really disturbed me, that was the most real to me, was they have all this, they have screenshots of the stuff, of the murders going on, and they have the comments of the people as the murders are going on, and the comments of the people was the most real thing to me. I wasn't buying into the rest of if murder rooms could really exist, but I was buying into the comments of the people who were just trying like, this one's boring. He killed her this one. The comments were just like any other, all the jerks out there in the world, anonymous comments on anything. And I was just
guys, for anybody just viewed in right now, like Pocan Joe here, how would you answer this one? What's going on?
Murder. Lots of murder is going on in Red Room.
What we got here? The art is great. The idea behind getting books out there is a different way is great. The fact that Fantagraphics is hopefully making a buttload of cash. I must have missed a conversation. I thought he was talking about.
He's just talking about this book. He likes that this book exists. Like I said, Ed Piskor has been on his show working on. He's done a really good job getting people to know about this book and getting people to like him and want to buy his book.
Yeah.
He's done a really good job of that. I just wish the book were more up my alley, but it's not.
So one of the things I'd like to really ask about that book in particular is that, do you feel like it's something a bit more original that's out there? You know what I'm saying? Like somebody's trying to do something a little bit different. We got post-apocalyptic books. We got movie pitch books.
He really is trying to do something in the disturbing horror genre. That's what he's trying. He really is trying to do something disturbing.
That is disturbing. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
You're talking about Burn Notice earlier, and it made me think of Evil Dead. And I'm thinking that there's some kind of analogy here where you have the story, going on in Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. And then Tom Clancy gets a hold of it and tells you how the cabin was constructed.
Yeah. Like I said, I find it disturbing but not entertaining and a little pointless. I like Crossed. Crossed is the most disturbing comic I've ever read. Crossed is disturbing. Like Tim has said, you put your Playboys out on the coffee table and hide your issues of Crossed. That's how disturbing it is. You don't want people to randomly run across your issues of Crossed. Because if someone reads them, they'll go, oh my God, this guy's a maniac for reading this. That's how disturbing Crossed is. But at least Crossed has a point, is trying to be disturbing and entertaining in some way. This is like I said,
a manual. It sounds like a manual on how to kill somebody.
It's not even, because it's a manual on how to it's a manual on how to kill somebody in the same way that Doomsday Clock is a manual on how to integrate Watchmen into the DC universe. It's a useless manual.
Got you.
It's just an intellectual exercise.
It's like Brian Bendis doing a superhero book. It's not going to matter. later on. No.
And so much creativity went into it, and like and it's not even Nameless was I don't know if I don't know Nameless, but like I said, so much. It's a wonderful, wonderful package. It looks good. I love the printing is really. I don't know. I've got what really bothered me. Another Ed Piskor book. I first discovered him when Hip Hop Family Tree was a webcomic. And then it got popular and picked up by Fantagraphics to be printed. And I ended up waiting until the 2-volume slipcase edition of Hip Hop Family Tree came out. And the printing is so bad, it's unreadable.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, before we get too far out, to just kind of have a segue here, can you admit we've all been here? I mean, I think we've all been here. It's about an ex-porn star who needs the money and accepts a porn job that quickly descends into living hell. I mean, we've all been there. We've all been there. We all survived. But go ahead. Sorry.
But anyway, like Hip Hop Family Tree was supposed to look like a yellowed old comic. That was its aesthetic. But it went too far in the yellowed old comic direction. I can't even read it. The black lettering is too fragmented on the yellow fragmented color that I'm like, I've never been able to read my printed copy of it.
I tell you what's interesting is like Ed. I mean, he's one of the fake kayfabe guys, cartoonist kayfabe channel, right?
Yes.
I'm finding it really interesting that the guy is getting to be more popular for that channel than his actual comic book work. Is he a niche? Does he have an audience? Is he a niche writer? Or I don't know enough about his work. I know of his work.
His Marvel stuff made him popular.
The Grand Design.
He got to do a Marvel series. That's what makes you popular.
Yeah, the Grand Design. I think that's what it was.
If he didn't do that, everybody wouldn't be watching his channel.
Yeah.
That's what made him
popular
in a minor league way.
Yeah.
In a minor league comic way. But he's done a good job of being likable and having a good channel. He and Jim Rugg.
Well, let me make it clear because there's, it's an observation. That's all I'm making here. Anything like that. But what I've noticed is that there's people who are fans of that Grand Design book, but you don't hear Ed's name. It's not like they're an Ed fan. Does that make sense?
No. Yeah.
Okay. I hear more about a book or his work than I hear about his name being mentioned with the work. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Interesting.
Comic Crack says he disagrees with me that the channel started before the X-Men came out. Yeah, but the X-Men made the channel.
What is this? Wait a minute.
I didn't discover his channel until after the X-Men book was out, and I only discovered it because other people started promoting it.
Although I'd say that people who read Grand Design were not the kind of people that would particularly be interested in the YouTube channel. I remember comments from people who picked it up and said, just because it's an art style that hadn't been tried at a superhero publisher before, and they loved it because of it.
Right. But Hip Hop Family Tree made him known.
Yeah. My shop got a hold of some copies of Hip Hop Family Tree, and those were not clearing. Not like Grand Design. Grand Design, right. He always had to keep finding new copies to sell in Hip Hop Family Tree, one every once in a while.
Yeah, Comic Crack, I'm not saying people didn't discover it before then. I'm saying more people discovered it after X-Men. That's what made it grow. Because the X-Men is just much more high profile than any comic he does.
I think doing those readings of the early issues of Wizard kind of helped.
Yeah, that too. That was, once again, one of the best ways to get popular is to glom on to something that's already popular. So what they did was those Wizard readings, which Tim is getting all Tourette's about because
it's not that. It's like I'm like what I'm like. There's a whole world out there going on that I don't know about. This is wild. I'm just listening, and I'm just sort of like they did. Here's my problem. Everything you're saying about what they're kind of doing, if Bromstar is still out there, we already did like 10 years ago. That's what's getting me. I'm listening to this, and I'm like, we done all this.
They did Weapon X this month.
Yeah. And I can tell you,
Sequential Geeks comments that they didn't like Ed Piskor. He's cracking me up over here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I'm hearing you guys are like he's likable or whatever, and all this stuff, and there's like people bashing him in here. I had no idea. Yeah, I mean, I had no idea.
I think people bash him in the same way that we occasionally bash him, in that he's not doing anything different than we've done on YouTube for years. He's just doing it in and he's just got popular doing it. So that's kind of like, what the? Well, he's doing the same thing, and I'm not popular.
It's because he's monetizing it.
Yeah.
It's always that. He's making money off of it, and we're not.
See, you got to be careful when you talk about it, because people love to jump on and be like, "Oh, you're just jealous" or something. No, it's really an observation. I tried watching the channel, and I was like, "Man, we did this. We've already done this." And some of that stuff other people did better. That's what was getting me. That's the only thing
I think there is an element of envy or jealousy to it too. I mean, if I can see it in myself, I know it's there in other people. I mean, it's not 100%, but when you see somebody else doing the exact same thing you did, only getting tons of success from it, you go,
no. What's happened is I've already been through that. There was actually somebody watching my channel, and they were making a living at a newspaper, taking my videos and writing them up like it was theirs. Brett Legend and some other people let me know about it. It was down in Florida. I've already been there. I think it's my thing. I think I've already been there. I think that
I can use comedy as an analogy. If you live long enough, you see where things came from.
Yeah.
Everybody's always talking about Chris Farley. I'm like, yeah, but I've seen John Candy before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to, I want to. Comic Crack disagrees with me. He thinks they were popular before. I can tell you, I see this in Chris Geruso too. He does his own comics, G-Man and the stuff, and he's got his own thing going. But his Marvel his mini Marvels are always more popular. There are always more people who want him to do mini Marvel stuff than they want him to do his own G-Man stuff. And I think Ed Piskor's it's the same way with him. He is known for Hip Hop Family Tree and his own stuff, but that Marvel stuff brought him a lot more attention than he had before. He had attention before, but the attention you get as a cartoonist goes up exponentially when you work for Marvel and DC. That's why they work for Marvel and DC when they can. Mm-hmm. They can use that to promote themselves.
Yeah, and see, that's where we come. This is where I'm kind of interjecting what I said at the beginning of it. I heard about X-Men Grand Design, people loving it. I mean, it was all over the place, with the circles that I've seen. But I haven't heard or seen anything since then where Ed's name is mentioned except his YouTube channel. And that's what started all this before the comments and all that stuff, is that it's almost like the cartoonist kayfabe YouTube channel is kind of becoming more popular, and I'm talking about people knowing the name than his comic book work. That was my only observation. And
someone go check his channel. How many subscribers does he have now?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Quite a few thousand, I think.
What was that?
I'll tell you.
Quite a few thousand.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. The Wizard reviews, we were doing that way back like in 2012 and 13. And that's all I'm pointing out. I'm just pointing out that a lot of what they do, it's already been done. They just sort of have they just kind of come up with they got their hand, they're in comics, so they have people who like their comics and their fans, obviously. A little bit more of a platform and stuff, but anybody that kind of digs into the community, and I'm not talking about my channel or just my channel. There's other people who have done almost everything I saw. Well, the only thing I saw that they did that really made them bump up is when they started getting Howard Chaykin. When they got Howard Chaykin on their channel, that's when I think they popped big time. I mean, that was cool. That was a great video because they kept their mouth shut and Howard would talk and then they would go, "Yes, sir." They referred to him as "sir." And I was like,
"Yeah," because Howard would show him a new one.
Sequential Geek just put a nice description of it here too. They talk technical talk about how comics are made. That is rare, and that the constant name dropping of people they bump elbows with is something that you all have not done. They name drop all the time.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I've done a lot of videos on how comics are made, but no one cares.
To answer your earlier
I
question,
shouldn't say no one. My taking a look at the artist editions, which are all about how comics are made, they have the longest tail of my videos.
What are you about to say, Scott?
to answer your earlier question, they have 42,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's awesome.
That is a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There was a comment here a bit earlier by Kachiman. They hate on monthly Big Two comics because they are unoriginal, then proceed to make comics like Grand Design. Here's the thing. They hate on the comics, but they don't. They keep going back. Oh, man, I love Daredevil's Frank Miller. Oh, John Byrne did great art, but superhero comics suck. And then they go back to talking about Frank Miller and John Byrne and Chris Claremont. And they always gotta put down a comment in the middle about how superheroes suck. But they always go back, and they said that they loved it. I think it's kind of juvenile the way that they're talking about superhero comics, like they're like guys who just discover heavy metal and all of a sudden they start hating on every other kind of music, or when they discover Nightmare on Elm Street and all the other movies now suck, and they're doing the same thing with comics, but they can't avoid being impressed by the things that they liked as kids, and instead of embracing it, they're trying to justify themselves as not liking it.
Yeah,
Picasso has got a comment there for you, Paolo.
Yeah, no. But no, that you can see it in the you can read their attitude. They go a lot of time poring over those comics, and they're not just being technical about them. You can notice that those are their favorite comics from the youth.
Yeah, they're being enthusiastic about it.
But then then there's always they try to sneak in some put downs because they think it gives them credibility. But if they were more honest about it, I think they would be more credible, actually.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know how long they've been around, and I know that Howard Chaykin video was quite a while back. I probably watched 4 videos on their whole channel, and I don't want to like rip them apart here. You know what I'm saying? But I mean,
I think they're doing a good job. I wish I had as many views and fans as they do.
Yeah. But I think the thing is that like you reach a point where you've been around for so long. It's called the Pauly Shore effect. That's what I call it. Kevin Smith pointed out the Pauly Shore effect. Everybody loved the Weasel for a while, and then one day, out of the blue, everybody was like, "Fuck Pauly Shore." Everybody was just sick of him overnight, one day. And I think if you stay on YouTube a lot and keep going, that eventually happens.
I have an extremely strict no Pauly Shore policy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I remember the day when there would be like grown men, well, they were like 20, 21, 22, hanging out in Hardy's parking lot on a Friday night, and they were all doing their Pauly Shore impressions. I'm like 15, look at them like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. 6 months later, they're in the same parking lot going, fuck Pauly Shore. They were like, I got to wind it up. It's been an hour and a half. It was a good show, man. So, anybody got like any last words or anything they want to do for the weekend?
Last word.
Like we're going to a firing squad,
Hey, after the day I had at work, I don't know if we got tomorrow.
Con Sith has got a message about he can't stand how Pisker artificially adds man to the end of every sentence like it's still 1994.
Hey,
Have you listened to one Rob Zombie song? He uses the word man like Cheech and Chong used, or he uses the word yeah like Cheech and Chong used the word man.
Oh, I'm
at the end of the sentence.
And see, I don't say anything like that because I got videos where I said and stuff, those 2 words where I said it like 30 times in a video, and it was only like a 10-minute video. and stuff.
That just reminds me of the famous man-dude fight between Sam Kinison and Howard Stern from about 1994, where they were buddies back, and Sam would come on the show all the time, and they got into some fight over something Sam did. So they're yelling at each other on the phone, but they're ending each sentence with like man or dude,
right,
and not really noticing it as they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the next week, they're rerunning the fight. Of course, they're trying to figure out Howard Stern's trying to figure out what happened, and all of a sudden he goes, "Are we saying man and dude a lot?" Because like Fred started hitting a bell every time a man or dude, and it was just so because the fight became less about the fight and more about the mans and dudes.
There's another podcast I listened to, and I'm not going to say what it was, just in case anybody here listens to that or not, but they were reviewing a comic. And I started counting once. This girl kept saying like in every sentence, and it finally got on my nerves to the point where I went back to the beginning and counted every single time. She said the word like over 600 times in 1 hour.
Yeah.
You know what's the word?
That is like so annoying.
You know what's the word you have that is tough not to say? Matter of fact, I said it once this show. When explaining something, a story or whatever, to use the word basically. It's one of those words that just creeps in, and some people use it all the time. And it's a word that means nothing. It's like a nervous word that people use.
You should not use the word basically if you're not summarizing.
Right. No, even if you're summarizing. Because people use it all the time. You don't have to. If saying I'm going to summarize this, you don't have to use the word basically. But like I said, especially on YouTube, when people are summarizing things, you can get 25 basicallys in a 10-minute video. I have to stop myself from saying it, and I couldn't stop myself when I was summarizing something earlier.
Know what I mean and stuff. Know what I mean and stuff. What we got here? Scott Connor, what about Justin Bieber on Iron Maiden? Would it be better than singing with Black Sabbath?
He's just trying to wind up Scott. Yeah.
He's trying really hard. Yeah.
It doesn't bother me just saying.
If he put in the effort into anything else in life he's put into trying to wind me up, he could have been a multi-billionaire by now.
So for next week's show, I think I'm going to do a stunt here. What do you think is in here? This is a sealed bag that your HelloFresh food will come in that's sealed with ice pack.
A new toaster. And you keep your Human Torch comics in the toaster so that you can pull them down and then the Human Torch comics catch on fire.
Well, over a month ago when I got sick, remember about 2 months ago I bought all those traits for $1 and graphic novels, and they had a musty smell. So I went out and I got one of those Arm & Hammer refrigerator baking soda boxes that lasts about a month and a half. Right. So I put them all in here and sealed them, and they've been over a month. Next week we'll open up and see if it works. We'll see if it has drawn out the musty, mildewy smell out of all these books.
You won't see, you'll smell.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Well, thanks you, Howard.
This is how horrible was
bad feeling about this. You got to say that in your what was that guy's name from Aliens? Maybe we ought to put her in charge. Bill Paxton. You got to do that in your Bill Paxton voice.
Game over, man. Game over.
A bad feeling about this.
I'm just glad I'm across the ocean.
Well, basically, I think we're done and stuff. And I like the show like a lot.
Unless you want to hear a story first.
I ain't got time, man. I do not have time.
All right, we'll save it for next week.
Yeah, save it for next week. We'll have your story. We'll have other phrases that we can't stand because I'll have time to think of it now. And we'll see if I got some books that aren't mildewy anymore, you know.
Or even if there's still books anymore.
There you go. That'll be good, man. All right. Game over, man. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
And goodbye.
Ta-ta.